All right, thank you very much. For more on this topic, we're joined by the Director of China Environment Forum, Jennifer Turner. Also from the Wilson Center, Woodrow Wilson Center as well. Thank you very much for joining on the show. You know, the topic is not a new one. We're basically talking about the environment, China raising its fuel standards, partly to clean up the pollution levels in China, but also it's part of a longer trend of not just having people be more environmentally friendly, but also businesses as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's, I mean, as you know, I'm sure you had plenty of stories over the last couple months about the air apocalypse in Beijing, where the pollution was down to your shoelaces. And I mean, this is a really promising sign that they want to really strengthen the sulfur standards for fuel. It's predominantly diesel in the trucks. I mean, most of 80% of China's auto emissions come from diesel trucks. All those big trucks coming in late at night to Beijing.
I was doing some research on this, and I've done quite a bit, and it's surprising because China's fuel standards actually, in many cases, surpasses that of a lot of Western countries. And a lot of people don't realize it. But at the same time, they have this pollution situation that seems to be just horrific when you see pictures of it. What's the disconnect there?
Well, I mean, Beijing has the strictest standard of any city. But again, when we see the pollution in Beijing, a lot of that's coming from the region, where while Beijing is going to work hard to get that 10 parts per million standard for sulfur, the cities around it are probably the Euro standard 3, which is 150. But it's not just the cars and the trucks that's causing the pollution. Coal is king in China. I don't know if you heard the wonderful statistic last week that China's coal consumption last year equaled that of the world.
It's
superlatives all the way with China.
It has a very significant appetite for coal, and that's also one of the criticisms as well, because coal doesn't necessarily burn as cleanly as other fuels. I want to ask you a question of who pays for this, because when you talk to experts about improving fuel efficiency, cleaner fuels, refiners have to pay more money. Consumers potentially could pay more at the pump as well. There's an inflation issue. Who really pays the cost for all this?
Well, initially, it's a little sticky. That's why the oil companies are very unhappy, because here's the question: who controls the prices? That would be the government. So the government initially would be putting the pressure onto the industries, and they're complaining quite loudly, because some estimates I saw could mean that the cost of fixing up their refineries could be almost a third of their profits. That's nothing. No company likes hearing those kind of numbers. So but the government is probably going to start giving them some subsidies or some tax incentives to make these changes. Somewhere it's going to pay, and the consumers will definitely be hit, and prices too. I mean, all these trucks bringing things in, you know, it's the Chinese consumers, and you know, conceivably the cost of exported goods.
Look, let's step away from the consumers. You know Southern China very well. In Hong Kong, where I spent a significant amount of time, there's a lot of discussion about the pollution coming from the major factories in Southern China as it flowed throughout the region, and a lot of the blame was placed on factories. Some of it coal, some of it not necessarily coal. And people argued, well, if they would install certain scrubbers or cleaner ventilation, that would reduce the pollution, but then there's a cost to that, and who pays the price? Is China making progress from having industries improve their own internal standards of what's acceptable pollution?
It's almost like a two-tier system, that you have these bigger industries, bigger manufacturers, a lot of them that are partners with all the big, you know, manufacturers, the Nikes and the Targets and whatever, that they tend to meet the standards. But the small and medium enterprises, the ones that going down the supply chain, they have a lot more difficulty in making these kinds of improvements. They don't, because they can be small mom and pop or 1,000, and they can't really access loans to install this kind of equipment. And so
it's expensive.
It's expensive, and the pressure, you know, it hasn't been, you know, just giving them pressure and saying you're going to lose the business if you don't do it. It's kind of a no-win situation, and then they might end up lying. What's interesting, though, is there are some initiatives like Natural Resources Defense Council, and I think that together with Greenpeace, they've been helping different industry, but the textile industry do low-cost, no-cost adjustments. This would be starting off with water pollution issues. It's a huge issue in southern China, and it's an intriguing model that you have real education and outreach to go at the lower level of the supply chain to help them kind of become cleaner and greener, you know, low-cost, no-cost, and they can see the advantage of making the investments.
This is a tremendous topic. It is good. Let's end it on that. Cleaner and greener. I think everyone can agree on that. Jennifer Turner from the Woodrow Wilson Center, thank you very much for joining us on Biz Asia America.